It's been a while since I've posted a video because there have been some really big changes for the Home Audio Podcast. More on that in an upcoming video. But for now, I'm back on track. Jason Lasky is today's guest on the Home Audio Podcast. We actually filmed this interview about a year ago. So first, I want to extend my apologies to you, Jason, for such a long wait, as our conversation was really awesome. And to those watching and listening. Because becoming a narrator and learning the whole new world of audiobook narrating is an awesome journey for those that are getting into it. I want to find out the narrator's side of the story. I'm Ryan May, and in each episode of the Home Audio Podcast, I'm talking with narrators doing just that. From veteran narrators to beginners just learning the trade, learning their strategies, their wins, and what's still ahead for them. And as you dive into each interview, I want to give you a free gift that most narrators learn as they're on their journey. The 4-Step Narrator Guide is an easy walkthrough of the journey and what it takes to become a narrator. It's a simple guide and it can help you through the process, so just pick it up at thehomeaudioproject.com/narrator. Today's guest is Jason Lasky. Even at his young age, he's a Renaissance man. The dude has done literally so much in his life. Our interview went on for about 2 hours because he had so much insight from his journey. But I condensed it down to give you the fast track of his story. As I say in this podcast, the narrator's story is just as important. So sit back and enjoy my conversation with Jason Lasky. Because the only thing I want to say right now is, Jason.
Hi.
Welcome to the Home Audio Podcast, man. It's good to have you.
Thank you for having me, sir. It's a pleasure to share my time with you.
Yeah, man. So give me some of your background. Give me some of your most notable mentions in audiobooks, acting, theater, anything that you want to spill to the audience, man, and we'd love to hear it.
Well, I'll do a preview of 2 things I'm really proud of that are hopefully going to be coming out in the near future. And by near future, anywhere from 3 to 6 months from now.
Okay.
One of them is the audiobook of Mr. China. It's a memoir about this guy named Tim Clissold. It's essentially the story of how in the late 90s, early 2000s, when China opened up its economic doors to the world because of where he had been in his life in terms of studying Chinese in Beijing, his business movements, he was in a position to convince a lot of people to go and invest a whole lot of money in China. And then it's the story of how $400 million just started to mysteriously disappear. If you want to read a book that gives you a glimpse into the mindset of how Chinese business people view contracts and how they view the importance of showing face or saving face, it's a great cultural deep dive. So forthcoming, the audiobook version of Mr. China by the wonderfully talented, great writer, Tim Clissold.
So you have a lot to unpack just through everything that you've explained so far, which I actually love hearing that. I really appreciate you actually saying that, bringing that whole story up, the pathway from reading Mr. China all the way to getting in touch with the author to then narrating Mr. China, and then subsequently this new book of his,
Cloud Chamber. And Cloud Chamber, there's actually the physical book is actually out, if I'm not mistaken. But
so talk to me a little bit about your journey as a narrator specifically. Like how did you get started in all that? You studied acting, performance. Yeah. You've been in theater.
Yeah.
What leads you next to getting into audiobooks?
So I was in Shanghai and I was doing some theater stuff there. Let's say I was writing some things. I was performing the things I was writing with a group of like-minded folk. I was appearing in other productions, with the other with the expat theater community. Something happened where I went into a recording studio and I started, doing English dubbing for some Japanese video games. And then something else happened where I was the voice of some cartoon characters for this educational cartoon. So that was the beginning of it. And then as it turned out, I went and did some recording at what's called the Shanghai International Studies University. So I was in one part of the campus and I was recording things that were going to be used, like recording the listening portions of the exams for the Chinese students, for their English courses. So I started doing that. And I remember I think it was sometime after that, I stumbled upon something called ACX and I signed up and I never did anything with it. 2018, 2019. I was at this point, we're in Armenia. We have, I think we have 3 kids. Yeah. By that year, we have all 3 kids. And I have my setup. I have my job. I'm teaching theater and English. So Sveta, the saint, right, and the visionary, she said, Jason, why don't I think you should look into doing some kind of audio recording because I love your voice. And, that's a common thing that people in our industry, I think, are told. It's, well, I love your voice. And you also have an acting background and actor training. And you did voice stuff before, like, why don't you look into it again? Hey, I found this thing called ACX. And I said, ACX, that looks familiar. What the hell? I go to sign up and it turns up I signed up in 2013. And that's when, I auditioned with, my very low quality, I won't name what I was using, but very low quality equipment. And I got the gig. And this one, I'm proud to say the first audiobook I narrated was RV Living. And you can look that one up. I'm happy to proclaim that that's the first one, RV Living. And it was actually, it's kind of well written and it kind of gave me and Sveta some ideas about, one day, should we get a recreational vehicle? And it's like tips and tricks, so like tricks, insights into what to do if you really want to sell your home and just live in an RV. But that was the first audiobook that I did. And I recorded everything and I edited everything the best that I could with the tools that I knew how to use at the time. Mm-hmm. I had been familiar with Audacity for other reasons. And so I was able to use this for the first time out. I'm still a big fan of Audacity, but now I also use Studio One and, I know my way around RX8. That was the first narrating I did. And what I can say is that I've really busted my ass the last couple of years learning better techniques. I've been working really hard to try to make, begin something and build something.
But no, that's pretty interesting to hear, man, that like just that evolution of the journey to become a narrator and, in hearing your story, knowing that you're also a teacher and you got involved with theater, you have all that in your background already.
And writing. Yeah.
And writing. You do it all, right? So it's one of those things that it's encouraging to hear though, because from my perspective, hearing how you take all of those past trainings and, educational development that you've taken, applying it to everything that you have. I noticed on ACX or on Audible, actually, in the minimal research I did, it looked like you do a lot of, I don't want to say self-help, but very thought-provoking literature that you've read. Cognitive thinking, things like that, things of that nature. So speak on that a little bit, because the reason why that interests me is because while I'm sure you're a guy, you're a human being that still loves to have fun, and you can find the fun in everything. I find it interesting though, and RV living, exactly. that some other titles you've done are really thought-provoking titles. That I saw, especially on that cognitive thinking piece.
Well, sure. If I could go back and do those again, I would, for anybody who's interested in checking them out. At the same time, I don't want to bash, anything that you just said, because what you said, I was interested in auditioning for those titles because of, the educational backbone to everything that I think I've, been interested in, investigated, and the investigations never end, right? The journey never ends, right? In terms of lifelong learning, which was something I was interested in before I understood that was actually a term that is used in the International Baccalaureate, for example, or in education, generally speaking. So I was drawn, I guess, to audition to those titles simply because it was an opportunity for me to learn something new while I was going along. I've gravitated. I enjoy nonfiction. I enjoy For example, I think I narrated one or two things about narcissistic personality disorder.
Yep.
Narrating the stuff I was narrating, it was just like, whoa, like there's something to what they're saying, but I don't know how many people have gone and read that kind of psychology book, for example, about that particular illness and the effects that those illness has on both the individual and then, whoever is in that individual's reach. Thanks to some of the tools that I've picked up, that I was definitely working under the rate that should have been paid. But I realize now in hindsight, when I saw that there was some bad writing in there, that was an immediate red flag that I should get out. At the same time, we were in a position where I couldn't sacrifice the money for integrity just because of where we were financially at the time. And so, that's not something I'm really happy about. It's something that I did. And, again, I'm not looking for anybody to go, listen to any of those books, because I wouldn't listen to any of those books in hindsight. Okay. But the bigger takeaway is, some of the ideas and some of the books that I think are more well written and better organized, something more believable, something more truthful and honest about the pieces. It's still some ideas worth considering and some ideas worth learning about. Also because, if you want to be brutally honest or brutally truthful with oneself, it's read some of these books and see, well, do any of these things actually resonate with you? And can you look at yourself objectively, for example?
You said something earlier that then kind of triggered my brain because of everything that you've done, everything that you still currently do.
Yeah.
In your journey, your pathway of being a narrator.
Yeah.
You said that you don't really utilize ACX that much anymore. So talk to me, and I'm sure maybe it's always there in your back pocket, right? So talk to me about where you are now that steered you away from ACX. Who are you working for, or who have you worked for? And what is that continued journey for working with the people that are the publishers that you do work for?
Now, if I were to look at my resume, I'm working with Pro Audio Voices as a narrator and as an editor, proofer, editor, engineer. I've done some books for Spectrum audiobooks. I've done some work for Pink Flamingo Productions. Supposed to start doing something with Nubian Audio pretty soon. Atheon Books is also new on my radar. And when I mention these people, it's a combination of narrations, proofing, editing, mastering, and that's where I've gone to now. And then also looking for the the private clients, like other Mr. China's, other Tim Clissolds, for example. So that's very shortly, that's who I've been working with. And I've had little conversations with somebody over at Scribe Media. I got to have a little back and forth with Michelle Cobb, who is the president of the Audiobooks Publishing Association. I've talked to a guy named Bill who works for SpeechKey, and SpeechKey, their platform right now is very much about artificial intelligence, and using AI voices, taking people's voices and then creating the algorithm, right? So then they can go and mass produce textbooks, university textbooks, really, really quickly at a substantially lower cost than, let's say the traditional route. So I'm looking at, talking to the people who I think it makes sense to talk to. I'll mention J. Michael Collins, not for audiobook stuff. J. Michael Collins, he doesn't do so much in the audiobook realm, but he's definitely somebody who likes to see people succeed in whatever element, of the voiceover business they want to be part of. And he was very generous with his time. I submitted a commercial demo for a live webinar that he and his partner, whose name I can't remember, they were going to critique it as part of this webinar. And then something happened and I wasn't able to make it. And I gave him some heads up. I said, hey, I thank you for accepting it. I'd love to be there. I can't make it. Please let somebody else, take my spot. And he said, no problem. And then he was very generous. I said, can you give me like a little tiny bit of feedback? And he gave me an hour worth of his time. Those are the people that I've worked with, people I've learned from.
Yeah.
Sarah Puckett from Pink Flamingo. She gave me some free time to give me some tips about,
Cool, man. Yeah.
narrating in her particular genre as well. So, it's a very welcoming community. No bridges have been burned. I like talking and working with people across a wide variety of genres, not just self-help, cognitive disorders and narcissistic personality. Like, I love the nonfiction, but I love telling stories, and I love more character work. And that's the direction that I've been heading with some of the publishing companies that I've been working with now. So I'm really excited. I'm going to start. I have a 3-book series that I'm going to start work on pretty soon. At my first sci-fi series for Atheon Books, and I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, man.
So that's cool. And
there'll be a lot of different and fun character voices, I imagine.
It's great. It's great. And I know things are moving in a good direction because I have like 6 audiobooks that I'm supposed to be working on at the same time right now.
Oh,
and I have X amount of time, and I'm starting to finally figure out my schedule in a better way. So then we can do this one and then move on to that, prep and then move on to this one and prep and move on to that one. Right.
Right.
I can't do this. I can't do like 2 or 3 books at the same time. It just doesn't work.
Right. Yeah. You lose track. So talk to me about that a little bit. Cause now you got me curious on that. I've worked with tons of narrators. Everyone's got it different with their schedule. And that's kind of the beauty of it, right? Is that you kind of time dependent. You can record when you feel it, when you feel like it. So what type of schedule does work for you? The reason why I'm asking is because I would love for the viewers of this on YouTube, the members listening on the podcast, to get a sense of how you have to break down your day. Do you narrate all 5 days, or do you treat it like a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday? Do you only record in the morning? Do you only record in the evening, couple hours? What's your process? What do you do? How do you come to that method?
But at the MFA in New Hampshire, I had a wonderful teacher named Kate Clark, and Kate Clark gifted us a book about basically routines. You got to find your own routine that works. And sometimes your routine is just, a world of chaos. So let me tell you about my world of chaos.
Sure.
My ideal routine is I come in here at about 10 a.m. and I record for 2 hours. And let's just say I've already read the book and I've already prepped everything, and I already have like my character things. I've done my first 15. Everybody's in love with it, and everybody's happy to move forward. I would love to work from 10 to about 12:30 or so. I'd love to have a half-hour break of lunch, see my wife, hang out with, one of my kids or 2 of my kids or 3 of my kids, depending on where they are with their schedules. And then come back for like an extended, like 3 hours or so. And so, or 4 hours. So, from 10 with the break to 10 to 12 to say from like 10 to 4 or 10 to 5, like I would love to have that.
Sure.
What happens actually? What's reality? Reality is that a lot of my recording, a lot of my narrating will happen. I'll start at probably 11 p.m., 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. So kind of where we are now, that's the norm for when I actually get started. Now, if I have to jump in because a company sends me something, some video game dubbing, and it's a really, really quick thing, it's like 3 sentences and then, I send it out. I can run in, I can make, get my 10 or 15 minutes and run in the middle of the day and do that and send it off. If there's a time crunch, right, I'll get in here and, things will get done as they need to get done. So it's a constant juggling act, and I'm enjoying it. And it does wear me down. And I definitely don't get off on the fact that, okay, 10 o'clock, ready to narrate. No, I'm not happy about that. But I summon the magical forces and I get all my elves dancing around and whatnot. And then, we're off to the races, and I do everything I can. I can say that, it's not the ideal, but something is working for me, and it's moving me in a better direction to hopefully solidify something of a better routine, which is funny because now we're talking about maybe, leaving here and going to study or going to teach in an international school, possibly in Indonesia or Singapore next year. So That'll be, another like juicy, change up and all that. Right?
The wild ride of Jason Lasky for sure.
God damn it, man. Yeah. I mean, what did Buzz said some really nice things when he was giving me my MFA. He said, this modern day Magellan. And I really, really enjoyed that, that particular thing. And I had somebody else call me a Renaissance man. And I said, yeah, I think so.
Your story definitely seems like it, dude. Like
it's nuts. It's nuts, man. When I say it out loud or I tell it for the first time to somebody and I listen to myself, it's like, yeah, we're doing something definitely not the path most taken for either of us. That's for damn sure.
It is a really cool, very neat perspective in the sense of everything that you've done. And this is going to sound funny, but it's almost like you're the soul of like a 98-year-old man who has done all these things in his life, and you've condensed it into the age that you are, which I don't know, but
I'm turning 39 in a week. Yeah,
man, you're definitely you've lived it all. It seems like.
We're living it. Like, well, it's a writing thing, right? It's like when we're watching a good story or we're listening to a good story, in this particular medium, the seeds are planted and things are there. And then, with good writing, they're going to appear and they're going to blossom in such a way that you don't see it coming. And it's such a great, maybe it's cathartic. Maybe, it's something that brings you to like a great sense of satisfaction or connection with the character, the story, whatever it might be, right?
What are some tips, tricks, advice that you want to give people when they're getting into narration specifically, when they're getting into audiobooks, when they're getting into acting, when they're getting into performance, anything along those lines, when they're getting into just literature?
The thing that I've been finding more often than not when I'm booking work, it's when I'm talking to you the way that I'm talking to you, or it's when I'm auditioning in kind of the way that I'm talking to you. And that kind of personal connection and that kind of, the conversational read, the natural flow of things. There are starts, there are stops, there are breaks, there are pauses. And are they, is it mapped out? Do I have something in front of me that I'm reading right now that has all of the grammar markers in there? No. I'm just doing it. But the art, the craft is finding how to do what we're doing right now, but taking it from the page and bringing it here. And no different than, the actor learning their lines and then going on. And it's like it's happening for the first time. So finding that connection to it's happening for the first time. Yes, you've done your prep work and the character voices and you've done your first 15 and that's all squared away. But then approaching the story, and maybe there are some directors in theater, for example, who will throw out, or they'll tell the actors cross out all of the punctuation marks. There are other theater directors who will say, no, the punctuation marks are key and are telling you, they're informing you about the mentality and the flow and the starts and the stops in the thought process of the character and what they're feeling, right? And not just what they're saying, but then with the stage directions, what they're doing. And, actions reveal more than words. So I'm trying to be more conscious of ignoring the punctuation. And I'm finding that is opening it up. And I'm not the only one to talk about this. I think there's plenty of other guides and coaches out there who have, already have, the stamp of approval in the form of, they're being recommended or they've won an Audie award or something like that, who say similar things. Now, have I trained with them? No, I've trained with other acting coaches. Have I trained exactly in the audiobook narrating medium? My training has been a combination of finding what works based on the skill set that I've had. the things that I know I need training for, when I've had a question, I've gone and I asked somebody about that, and that's helped inform me moving forward with that person for that particular project or set of projects. I take the idea of when I audition, I'm already hired, which I think is a great attitude to have, because
Sure.
I'm bringing my best to it. And then, I'm going through the whole editing process, even though I know they're going to proof it and edit it and master it and take out all the unnecessary blah, blah, blahs. I'm going to show that I can do that too.
Yeah.
Right. And to deliver them, the best sound, because if it has the best, cleanest sound, and it has something that's actually being felt in the moment and delivered in the moment and has that fresh sound about it, that's the thing. Like I go through probably 6, 7, 8 times until I find my flow where I know it's me talking and not something like me talking, but me talking. So finding me talking the way that I'm telling a story, that's what has been booking me more work. That's what I've been finding, and through this experience. And I don't think I'm saying anything that other people haven't said before, but it's true. My unique fingerprint, my unique voice, my unique approach to it is going to be the thing that helps me stick out from somebody who hasn't found their unique way yet.
Yeah.
So so maintaining your uniqueness and maintaining your particular rhythm, and is the comma there? Doesn't matter if it's there. No, I can say something too, right?
Yeah.
and experiment with it. You gotta have fun with it. You gotta play with it. If you're like, oh, this is such a boring thing, then get out. This isn't for you.
Right.
I enjoy this because I love acting. But I love being, and I enjoy being. And so in bringing that level of enjoyment to the story with somebody else's words, that's what I'm striving for. I think that's what we're all striving for.
Yeah.
But to have that idea as the spine of what I'm doing and the spine of what we are trying to do, I think it's what has been working for me. So, back to the idea of, the routine. If I can bring that, it doesn't matter what hour of the day I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
If I can bring that, even if I can only maintain that for like 10 minutes at the end of the long day, but it's a great 10 minutes. Well, I got my 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's awesome.
If I could only do 10 minutes today, well, that's 10 minutes that I did today, and I'm proud of it.
Hey, and you did it. You got it done. Well, hey, Jason Lasky, man, dude, the pronunciation again, isn't it? I appreciate it, though. I appreciate you talking with me. The man of many hats, the Renaissance man, whatever you want to call yourself, whatever you want to call him. No, man, it's been such a cool honor, pleasure to talk to you, learn your story, let people hear your story.
Well, Ryan, thank you for creating this space. Thank you. Thank you for creating this. Thank you for, giving me, this time with you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, likewise, dude, it's been, like I said, it's been a pleasure, honestly, to talk to you, because it's one of those things that me hearing your story, this is one of the things this is why I started this podcast, because I do enjoy talking to people, and very much similar to your screenshots.
Yeah.
This for me is not only an outlet for me to have a creative space, but also to bring that individual into this creative space to then express their self, let their story be known as well. Because my story can be out there, and my story is going to be out there. It already is, you know, in some.
You got a fun story too. Everybody's got their fun story.
Yeah, I mean, in some facet of whatever their story is, but being able to talk to a narrator like you that we haven't met before this,
Nope.
is what I love about, I would say, probably this audiobook journey. Even though I've been in it for 10 years, I'm still on this journey, and it's cool to get to know people in this space that are like-minded, but also, they have their own perceptions, their own thoughts, and like their own path journey that they bring into it. And that's what I love when I've worked with authors or any new narrator, or just narrators I've worked with 100 times.
Yeah,
there's always still some new story or some new storyline.
Yeah,
in their overarching story, the umbrella, you know.
Or if you want to go into like a little Spider-Man territory, like the multiverse, right? There's a new understanding of something that has already been talked about. It's the same thing as reading Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett when I was 15, or no, not 15, excuse me, 25. First time reading it then. And then a couple years go by, and then I'm reading it again, and a couple years go by, and I read it again, and I keep finding new things.
Exactly.
And you know, the books that I go back and I read something, I'm finding something new. So telling my story to you, for example, or you telling me your story, you're going to listen to me. I'm going to listen to you. You're going to hear things about yourself, and I'm going to hear things about myself that either I had forgotten or I hadn't highlighted before in that particular way. You know, the nuance of telling it, and it's going to bring up something that maybe I hadn't thought about before. And when it just happens, then it's that moment of, well, what this time I said the Frenchman after I said St. Patrick's Day, or last time I said that he was born here and she was born here. Like, where is my head at today? You know, and I actively look for changing things up because I like to keep things really, really fun.
Yeah, man.
And maybe that speaks to why my routine is so crazy. I have my ideal routine, but here's the actual routine. And I'm trying to get, you know, something better because I know my output will just be a bit stronger. At least I think it'll be stronger. My hypothesis is that it will be. You know, there's my bachelor's of science right there, you know, scientific method and things like that. You know, try it and see if it works, right? But no, it's what you're saying, you know, absolutely resonates with me, and I hope resonates with all you lovely people who are out there.
Thank you so much again for doing this with me. I really appreciate it.
Cheers, Ryan.
And
thank you.
Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
Cool. Even a year from our conversation, Jason is still making big moves. So I really hope you enjoyed our hangout. To keep posted on what Jason is doing, check out his Audible page and make sure you visit his website because this dude is a powerhouse. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you won't miss more tips, tricks, and guidance from these amazing narrators. And again, if you're new to the world of narration and you're not really sure where to start, head to thehomeaudioproject.com/narrator and grab the 4-step narrator guide so you can get the basic path to get started. Thank you again for listening or watching if you're on YouTube. We will see you in another episode of the Home Audio Podcast real soon.